Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Reading the Red this Monday morning. This cold Monday morning, but it's dry. Praise the Lord. Mark chapter 10 and verse 9. Therefore, what God has joined together, no person is to separate. What God has joined together, no person is to separate. When a person is in a marital relationship, Jesus is saying to the disciples, what God has joined together, let no man separate. God's ideal is that a man shall leave his father and mother, the two shall become one flesh, and no one should ever break down that relationship. But we know we live in a situation in life where marriage is breaking down all of the time. And we have to ask the question as Christians, is there ever godly grounds for divorce? And Jesus has declared in the scriptures, yes, there are times when two people can no longer remain together and therefore separation and divorce is inevitable. But we're talking about what God's best plan was. The truth is that there are so many best plans of God for us as individuals in our lives about everything. And so many of those best plans of God have been broken down. And so we live in the reality of knowing that we're not realizing God's best plan in a whole host of life situations. And marriage, sadly, is one of them. So the reality of the fact that we're not living in the best plans of God doesn't mean that God discards us as a result of not being able to fulfill his best plans. But if we're looking at what God's best plans were, we can make declarations as it relates to God's best plans. Now, we may well have broken those best plans, those instructions, but still God's best plans. And so know, first of all, what God's best plans are. Now, if things break down, clearly God has a second best plan. He has a third best plan. God's best plan in your situation is unique to you. And God is on your side working with you in resolving the brokenness of each one of us missing out on God's best plans for our lives. God meets us where we are. Jesus came into the world to save sinners. He got alongside broken people in order to restore them and recover them from their brokenness. So God's on our side, even though we've missed out on God's best plans. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. So don't think that just because we've fallen short of God's best plans, that God has disregarded us. Not at all. God meets us in our brokenness. In fact, Christianity is the only representation of God coming down to earth to meet us in our brokenness. Every other religion requires that you become good enough to be acceptable to the God of your choosing. But the truth is, Christianity comes to meet us where we are. But it's still God's best plan, and we should exalt God's best plans, but accept that in our brokenness, God is recovering us from the mistakes that each one of us have made. Thank you for joining me. Be blessed. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.